Hey everybody, Captain B-Nard here with your BHDL2 Week 5 recap and Week 6 preview. So, we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Our opponent for this week was Icy Dude, a strong competitive battler from Discord. We have played him several times on Scarlet and Violet at this point. I did forget to mention, however, that going into this match, we were both sitting at a 2-2 record. So, once again, incredibly important matchup for both teams here to try and build momentum going into the second half of the season, trying to secure that playoff spot, of course. And so, unfortunately, once again, we were not able to get the job done as we did lose this game 3-0. It was a pretty decent match, relatively competitive game, but unfortunately, we just could not secure the victory in this one, which we will talk about a little more in just a second here. So, having said that, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to the team preview screen. So here you can see the 6 Pokemon that he brought to battle on the right-hand side, the 6 Pokemon I brought on the left. And so he did decide to bring this week the Tinkaton, Chi-Yu, Ting-Lu, Annihilate, Donphan, and Toxapex. So no real surprises here on his side. I wasn't quite sure exactly what he was going to bring, as you never really are in Draft League, but no real earth-shaking surprises here on his side of the battle. Looking at my side of the game, I decided to bring the Goodra, Mudsdale, Grimmsnarl, Kilowattrel, Palafin, and Ogerpon Hearthflame form, of course. So, I guess the only thing to note on my side is this is the first week we're bringing Grimmsnarl, obviously, since this is the first week that we have Grimmsnarl, as we just transacted for it last week. But yeah, nothing really shocking on my side of the game either, as far as I'm concerned. Um, so yeah, having said that, we're just going to keep on moving here, and we're going to get into the weekly pros and cons. So here you can see the list of the weekly pros and cons. This week we only have one pro, three cons, which we will go over here. So the only pro of the week I could think to throw up this week is that this was a pretty competitive game. It was a hard-fought game on both sides for sure. Um, we did hang in there, and we did make it pretty close. So I will say that's a pro. That's a positive for the game this week. But unfortunately, that's kind of where it ends. As we're going to go ahead and just go right over to the cons. So obviously, the big con of the week here is going to be that we lost the game 3-0. So obviously, of course, the loss is going to put us that much farther away from our goal of making playoffs. So obviously, that is the big con of the week here. Um, but other cons of the week include I did feel like I played this game kind of poorly, kind of badly, um, mainly from the standpoint of I just really made a lot of mispredictions and a lot of bad judgment calls, similarly to our last week's game, which had a similar result, unfortunately. There were a lot of instances in the game where I could have made a much better prediction, and it would have really potentially swung the game in my favor. And yeah, just didn't happen. So a couple instances that come to mind here. One of the big ones um, for me, well, there were two instances relatively early on, I should say, where he ended up getting free switches. Um, in the first one was when we went for the Thunderbolt with the Gudra on an incoming Ting Lu. So unfortunately, he got a free switch in that turn. And then just a couple of turns later, he ended up getting another free switch as we had Mudsdale in and went for the close combat on an incoming Annihilate. So he ended up getting a free switch there too. That second one is going to be the real big one in my opinion. Reason being is because had we been able to get the Stealth Rock back up with the Mudsdale, which is probably what I should have done in that situation, that would have actually made a huge difference late game, as I'm going to talk about. Um, well, I guess right now, because it kind of feeds into this point. So later on in the game, we actually did make a really good prediction, and on the opponent's incoming Toxapex, while we had our Palafin hero form in, we actually go for a Zen Headbutt. It is choice band max attack, and unfortunately, in that situation, the Toxapex comes in at full health and just barely lives with on like 1 HP. It just barely lives the attack. So, feeding back to my point, had I set the Stealth Rock up earlier in the match and it stayed up, the Toxapex would have gone down in that situation, because that difference between the Stealth Rock chip when it comes in would have been the difference between that thing um, living or dying, which ended up making a huge difference because at the end of the game, pretty much his entire team was whittled down quite a lot. Including the Toxapex, but unfortunately, obviously, with the Regenerator ability, Toxapex heals every time it switches out. So had the Toxapex not been there, we actually probably could have pulled the game back with Palafin at the end, and I did allude to this actually during the match, or I should say after the match in the battle video itself, is that his team was so whittled that I think everything aside from Toxapex was within range of the Choice Band Jet Punch from Palafin. So yeah, if the Palafin had gone down earlier in the game, had we got the Stealth Rock up, it would have been an entirely different game, obviously. So yeah, unfortunate decisions like that. Obviously, the trickle down effect, ends up hurting us in the long run with these uh, misreads and misplays. Um, but yeah, it just kind of is what it is. Like I said, that kind of all falls under the umbrella of just making bad decisions, which has kind of been a reoccurring thing for me the last couple of weeks. I'm not really sure why. Um, I guess I'm just not. Um, Playing as well as I could or should. So obviously that's something that has to change if we want to make playoffs here. Um, Not to take away anything from my opponent, of course, he did what he had to do in order to secure the victory. But it's just looking back. I guess hindsight is 2020, obviously, but it's just like I did mention this in the last one of these recap videos, but I just feel like in retrospect, looking at the games, just ending up making pretty much all the wrong decisions at the wrong times in these last couple of games, and it's just really costing me, obviously. Um, but the other thing that might be costing me is our final con of the week, which is what I'm going to call the curse of season one. And so, what I mean by that is, I have taken note of something here in the BHDL2, specifically for myself, but also for a lot of coaches as well. And that is the fact that I've had 5 games so far this season. Every single opponent that I've played thus far this season is someone who I've played last season, and in every single game, the results are exactly the opposite this season as they were last season. So the 2 coaches that I defeated this season are 2 coaches that I actually lost to last season, and similarly, the 3 coaches that have defeated me so far this season are actually 3 coaches that I defeated last season. So it seems very, very coincidental, very strange, a bit bizarre, even you might say, that is lining up that way. But I've noticed that for a lot of coaches, honestly, there are a lot of coaches who are defeating who they lost to last season and also losing to who they defeated last season. So I'm going to call it the curse of season one that seems to be taking effect right now. In the BHDL2 here, because all the game results seem to be pretty much exactly the opposite as what they were last season. So, kind of a crazy thing that I noticed, just kind of an aside there, but that's a negative because obviously we had many more wins last season than we did losses, and now we're getting more losses than wins. So that's not good. But yeah, as I had already stated here with this loss this week, unfortunately, the Pidgeys are going to drop to a 2-3 record here in the BHDL2. So things are not looking great for us as far as our playoff prospects. Which now that we've said all that, we're actually going to take a look at here. So here we have the current standings in the BHDL2 Draft League tournament post Week 5. Although, as you can see, two ambitious players have already played their Week 6 match here. So we're going to have that added information in there as well. But for just about everybody, this is basically just the post Week 5 snapshot of the standings. With 3 weeks left to go in the regular season for most. So, this kind of breaks down into a few different categories, pretty much by win, honestly, um, with one exception, which we will talk about. So, as you can see, the Philadelphia Pidgeys obviously not doing great here. We are currently clocking in at number 12 out of 16, although technically we are in a five-way tie. With four other coaches who have the same win-loss ratio as us, although for in three of those cases, those three of those coaches do have better differentials than us. Only one of them has a lower differential. So yeah, not in a great position. Obviously, we're in a very different position now than we were in last season at this point when I did the standings. At this point in the season, last season, we were in a much better position than we are now. But all hope is not lost. We still have a fighting chance here, although things are not looking great. But yeah, as far as the breakdown of the standings are concerned, obviously you can see your people at the top. Actually, we have no undefeateds this season at this point at the top, but we do have four coaches, technically three coaches. I'm going to do it by loss because maybe that'll be a little more accurate. So we have what I would consider to be the top tier of the records this season. So we have the three coaches that have 4-1 records here post Week 5. So those are the top three coaches right now. In the league, they are all in a very strong, if not guaranteed, spot to make playoffs. I think all of them just need one more victory to guarantee a playoff spot. I think if you have at least 5 victories, you're going to be guaranteed a playoff spot. So yeah, those coaches are obviously in the driver's seat to get to playoffs. Then we have sort of the middle of the pack, which are all the coaches that have pretty much all the coaches that have either three uh, 3 wins slash 2 losses. Obviously, we have the one coach, good old Scorpion, making my job difficult here by having already played his match, sitting at 4-2, obviously. But yeah, so all those coaches are obviously in a relatively good spot to make playoffs as well. And aside from him, we have one, two, three, four coaches with the 3-2 record as well, and that kind of rounds out the current top 8. Which again, obviously, the top 8 players post Week 8 here will get those 8 playoff spots. So those players are in a pretty good spot. Obviously, something could go wrong for them at this point if they slip or if they don't continue to win. But not in a bad spot, obviously. Then we come to the next group of players, who are all the ones that are 2 and 3, obviously, as one of which is me, which I have mentioned. So these are the people who, while getting to the playoffs is not out of the question, it is definitely on the unlikely side at this point. Obviously, we're going to have to make some changes. Obviously, we're going to have to start winning, if not win out, to get that playoff spot at this point. But there is still a decent chance, I would say, for all those coaches that have the 2 victories. Then we have the coaches that have at the bottom of the list here just 1 victory. And we're going to have technically 3 of those individuals, although, as I had mentioned before, there's going to be a little asterisk here because for the individual all the way at the bottom, who once again is the other individual who played the Week 6 game already, Almond there, I believe at this point he is mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. Because with 5 losses at this point, the best he could conceivably do would be a 3-5 record, um, and that's not going to cut it. I don't believe for playoffs this season. So yeah, I believe he is technically mathematically eliminated at this point. But yeah, other than that, everyone else is still alive. Obviously, those two other coaches with 1-4 records. Obviously, one more loss will essentially eliminate them from playoff contention at this point. Um, but yeah, they still have a chance. Obviously, slim, but still a chance to get back in the game. So having said all of that, we have to ask the question: what does this mean for the Philadelphia Pidgeys? Well, quite simply put, it means that we need to win, and we need to win big, and we need to win out at this point. So, um, of the three games that we have left in the regular season, we definitely need to win bare minimum of two of those games, if not three of those games. So I think if we win all three of those games, which of course is going to be a lot easier said than done, if we win all three games, I think we do actually get a playoff spot. Barring some situation where we get tiebreakered out, and it's going to depend heavily on how everyone else does, obviously. But I think if we can win out and get all three of those victories, then we should get a playoff spot in that situation. Um, if we win two of our last three games, there is a chance, though not a great chance, that we could sneak in like the number 8 spot with a 4-4 record. That is possible. I think just looking at the way the numbers are shaking out right now with everybody, as there is quite a big and even spread in the records in the league here. I think maybe one or maybe even two 4-4 records might be able to sneak in at the bottom. Again, just depending on who wins and who loses. If victories start to consolidate around the players at the top, especially. Um, so yeah, that is a possibility, though not a great possibility, to make playoffs, to sneak in with a 4-4 record. But anything worse than that is not going to cut it. Obviously, as I mentioned, anyone with 3-5 or lower is certainly not going to make it in. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the situation. Is we have to win, and we have to win relatively big too, to make up for the differential. Because as I said, we are um, second to worst of in differential of players with our same record. So we really have to start doing something different. We have to start coming up with some sort of plan of attack that's going to change our fortune here this season if we want that playoff spot, which of course we do. So having said all of that, we're going to go ahead and take a look now at our Week 6 opponent. And that is going to be Pokemaster 88. So this is an individual, once again, another very strong competitive battler, player we've played a couple of times before. Thankfully, we did not play him last season in the BHDL, which means that the curse will not affect this game, hopefully. That doesn't mean we're going to win per se, but at least we won't have the curse working against us. But yeah, here's a snapshot of his team here. As you can see, he's got a lot of premier high point value threats on the team. He's got stuff like the Meowscarada, the Iron Treads, the Walking Wake, obviously, is a big one to look out for. He also has some other strong Pokemon defensively, such as the Galarian Weezing. He's got a little Rain Core with the Ludicolo and Politoed, Ludicolo being one of his Terra Captains. He's got some speed and power with things like the Chandelure and the Espeon, of course, the Espeon being his other Terra Captain there. So definitely a strong and well put together team here. Definitely going to be another uphill battle for us in the coming week, and obviously it's going to be a must-win situation for us, as all these games are from here on out. So hopefully we can put something together that can make something happen against this team. We're going to try our best, obviously, and just see what happens. But that's pretty much it for this one. So thanks for watching it, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, and or subscribe if you did enjoy, and stay tuned for more new videos in the future. So that's it, and we'll see you next time.